relegated from the league.
So let's update our standings to move on into the third game of the day. Let's see how they are. And again, Dusty tying up with Riddle, but they have advantage. Riddle has advantage versus Dusty. Singularity with 114. M&M looking for relegations. If they don't win today, things will be dark for them as they might be sent into relegations. But now we move on into Astralis versus X7. 4th place versus 5th place. And if X7 wins versus Astralis, they can look for 4th place. We were talking in a world where X7 would miss playoffs. And now they're looking at that 3rd place. This looks spicy.
I think they're looking at the 2nd place as well. I don't know how far away Riddle are.
Speed run.
Or what the mathematical chances are there, but technically with how they've been on a roll for the past 2 games, bringing in Viking, it seems like we watched a few of their voice comms actually when Viking joined, and it wasn't necessarily that Viking was doing the shot calling start to finish, it's just that everyone else seemed much more willing to put that effort to shot call things, like even Chasey was calling things in the middle of the fight, there was Carlsen calling, there was Attila calling, there was Viking calling, like everyone was chiming in, and it was correct info. It wasn't just a dump of like a bunch of words on targets. It was like very valuable info in a team fight.
And looking into Astralis now, I'm going to jump into you to understand this a little bit more. How can Astralis meet up with X7? Because we know if Astralis loses the early game, things might go downhill really fast.
So if I'm coaching Astralis, I'm thinking about how I can make it so Carlsen can weather the storm. Because X7 are on red side. That means Chasey is probably getting counterpick again, and we've seen what he is doing with those counterpicks, especially into the meta picks. Like, I brought this up already. I think we'll almost definitely see Carlsen on Na, because he has been defaulting to that very consistently, and we're going to see a crazy counterpick, and it'll be all about Astralis weathering the storm topside. If they do that, I think they can win.
What about Astralis, the X7 though? They have Viking and they have Temp now looking for the Adi again. Attila faltering back into the Ezreal. I can play safe. I can play with no gold. I can still carry.
See, that was a little bit of a concern when I saw Temp defaulting back to the area, Attila defaulting back to the Ezreal. I'm like, this was the safe zone for X7 where they couldn't pick up victories, but they used it in a complete different manner. The Ezreal was playing very aggressive. Temp was linking up with Viking for the mid-jungle duo synergy, and I will agree with you. If you want to be towards the top side of the map, you need to sort of neutralize at least Chasey into his Jace and his Yone picks, but on the other hand, if I'm thinking of Carlsen, I'm thinking Spring Carlsen, if you leave him on a weak side, if you don't give him resources, he's going to die, he's going to be a liability. Summer Carlsen, though, he doesn't see his teammates at all, and he still stays even in CS, how he even pushes laners out of lane as well. I think it's been a complete glow-up for the Astralis top laner.
So I'm going to tell you guys that the champion select is ready, so it's my time to hit the button, so... Let's start the champion select as we move into the 3rd game of the day. X7 versus Astralis.
I think he smacked that on the floor, by the way.
You have no idea. I still have to pick this up after champion select. Looking into this one, we can still see the Vi. And the interesting idea, I know Nightmare will probably be mad, but so far, ever since Viking joined in, there's not a single loss for X7. This is really important for them. How can you bring down Viking of all people?
I don't think that the Viking necessarily has been the key member you need to bring down. I think it's more about unlocking Senkax and Crispec for the side of Astralis, giving Taxa that early game proactive jungler, giving him the agency to make the plays and get the ganks in. Something like Wukong, Trundle or Volibear, which so far 2 out of these have been banned already, and if it comes to Viking having to pick the Volibear, he might as well just take it away.
So I think what we're going to see is a clash of 2 teams with different styles, right? I think Astralis are going to be drafting for the mid 2v2, obviously with the roaming support potentially, whereas we have the topside gameplay from X7. I definitely do think Ezreal will be contested. Surprisingly, both teams have put a lot of emphasis on it, and both teams do not play through bot side as much. So Ezreal really makes sense for them. I think we'll definitely see an Ezreal.
Okay. So there's one thing here. You either leave Volibear open and give it over to Viking, and then your answers to that could be maybe Poppy, maybe Lee Sin, but I'm thinking here X7 are pushing Taxa onto a Lee Sin, and then there's the counter big chance of a Poppy in the game, which completely shuts down any plays that the Lee Sin can make in this game. So I think Astralis have a really important choice right here. Do you ban the Volibear, and do you give it over knowing you don't necessarily have something that can counter it?
The Draven is removed. That is another champion that has a lot of attention.
Kalista is also unbanned.
Kalista, you have the Lucian if you want to be spicy as well. If you want to bring the aggression to the bot lane, they do have those. but Volibear is available, there's Viking. How can you reply to this though?
I think it's a no-brainer to take the Volibear as away, especially since Trundle and Wukong and Viego have been banned away. Right here, you can resort into possibly playing Lee Sin onto Taxa or Poppy. Poppy is a really good ganker. It also stops things like Ahri being picked into your team. So Poppy is a really good answer to Volibear and a lot of other mobility champions that you're going to be playing, especially since you mentioned also the Ezreal being a priority right here.
There it is.
And or the Lee Sin.
He's going to play weak side.
Is this locked in?
Yeah, it's locked in.
It is locked in,
I think there's also potential for Xin Zhao jungle to match the early, because they want a strong early game 2v2. I think people have been picking Xin Zhao into a Volibear as well, so I think that's a viable shout. But yeah, we've got the blind pick Gnar, and now I expect to see in the first rotation of picks a counter pick for Chasey against that Gnar.
Okay, that also shuts down any Ahri shenanigans that you might have, because already you have a very strong ultimate, which is Volibear's ultimate, and if you do go and pair it up with Ahri, then Sylas can very easily take the Ahri ultimate and be extremely mobile in these fights to come. Of course, we forgot the cat that's unbanned, then this has been unbanned completely through this entire picks and bans. The Zeri Yuumi is going to be locked in. Now, what else can you pair it up with? Because every time the Yuumi gets locked in, I don't necessarily look on the lane. I looked at what other targets does the Yuumi have to attach to, so she can become problematic later on.
And if you bring the Yuumi, you know Tempt can bring a carry as well, so the Yuumi can attach herself. Even Chasey can bring something like that because he already knows the matchup he's going to face against. And we've seen this Twitch multiple times. And even though it could be an answer sometimes, it could be a nail on your own feet because you don't have enough range to deal with something like the Zeri and the Volibear.
What I'm a little bit skeptical about right here is that Tax's pool is gonna get severely pinched. We mentioned the Lee Sin remaining. We also mentioned the Poppy remaining, which can also stop Zeri from jumping from wall to wall as well and escaping. And I think it's going to be pretty easy for X7 here to eliminate any maybe of these junglers that they do not want to play against, or that they fear that Taxa might be the strongest on in the early game.
So I do think, I was curious to see if Astralis would ban away the counters that Chasey could pick into the Gnar, but clearly Carlsen is throwing down the gauntlet and saying he doesn't care about those counters, and he's going to stick with the Gnar blind pick, with whilst banning mid laners actually away from Tempt. Those roaming mid laners, I really like the roaming mid laners on Tempt, because he can run around facilitating his jungle and in turn facilitating top lane. We clearly have... There you go, there's the only man. I think it might be a Jace topside now. Into that Gnar, that's what we saw.
Of all the people, a Jace on Chasey, and that is going to be a tough one to deal with.
Yuumi is also really big stonks on the Jace as well later on. I really like the Lulu ban right here because it synergizes really well with the Rat on the bot side of the map. And what enchanters do you possibly have bot side? You still got Karma, you have Soraka, and you've got Janna that we've mainly seen with Draven. Lately, we saw it in the LEC on the weekend. Obviously, Attila and Kasik have been playing Draven and Janna for quite a while. But it's my boy Amumu showing once again right here. I like this because the second you see that Yuumi detaching from someone, you have the go button. It's not even just for Yuumis or squishies. The first person that walks in, which most likely might be the Volibear, to face check anywhere, you stun them, you pin them in place for so long that you have time to burst them. And if you look at all the damage coming in so far from Astralis, you have plethora of damage and styles of damage in your team.
So I definitely think they're going to need to pick a mid laner that can get prio into the Sylas. And oh, it's not a Jace, it's an Aurelia. This is something else we saw versus, I can't remember the team. We saw Chasey absolutely clap someone on the Gnar, right?
It's a big pick.
This is mid lane. I'm going to be extremely upset. I'm just saying. If this Aurelia goes to the hands of Tempt, I'm going to be really upset, Asherom.
It has been a really known counter for the Gnar, so I don't think this is almost one of the first, if not the first, Tempt has played Rise this split.
It's the first one.
It's the first time.
Push and roam. It's the exact same thing. Push and roam, facilitate top lane. The exact same thing. The game plan. X7 always plays very similarly. They seem to just be really on the hype train for playing for Chasey right now, and Rise facilitates that.
Oh, I'm not sure I like that. This is an early game proactive jungler, and we said that we want to see this. I just feel like Lee Sin would should Taxer so much. You've got so much set up with Gnar, with Amumu, with Sylas. Do it, Taxer. Do it for the old timers. Yes.
You did it. You got the pick. I'll give you the extra half of the donut.
Can I have the other half?
Yeah, you can have a full donut just because of this. I'm going to remind you guys that Taxer did the Lee Sin Jungle Clear Challenge. He's not in first, but he forgot to smite. So maybe...
Would be technically.
Technically, it's still not enough. Looking into this composition, What do you think, and who do you think is going to take this one? Astralis for the second seed, or X7 rise to the top?
I think assuming Chasey doesn't mess up on the Aurelia, because that's really important, I think X7 have drafted Exodia. I really like X7's comp. And he has proven it before. I believe it was versus Jax Plank on the Gnar. He stomped him, so I believe in X7.
I like what Astralis have. I think it's very blueprint Astralis. It's Senkux onto his Sylas, late game scaling, but he can provide a lot of CC and engage for the Lee Sin as well and setup. And then you go bot side Chrisberg onto that late game hyper carry on the Twitch. You also have a Mumu to engage this fight. You've got Lee Sin to create a really strong early game. I'd just like to put my goggles onto Tax and see what he can do on his Lee Sin in that early game, because I believe in him.
First time the desk is not in the agreement.
Denmark.
I love this. Oh man, okay, I was not expecting this turn of events. So I'm going to toss to the customer. Before that, I have a statistic just for Nymeta. Do you know ever since Viking joined X7, he hasn't lost? Up to you guys.
Yeah, what are you going to do with that stat, Al? That's not a lie, is it? I'm going to look at that stat and say, that's not very useful, and then continue
How are you going to
on
look
my
at that
journey.
stat? Where are you looking at it?
I'm not. I pretend I do not see it.
Okay,
about you?
moving very swiftly on as we're left with this incredible set of stats and analysis from the host and the analyst next to me by equal measure. We have got a bit of a divided desk.
Yes.
Aragon, of course, favoring that top side from X7. A little bit more focus towards Taxa from Georgia, who's taking up Goldmorg's mantle with the Denmark focus.
Yeah, and I love Senkux on Sylas. It has been such a power pick for them. Astralis have demolished mid lane in a way which I have seen few teams do. They are incredibly proficient at doing that. Of course, they're doing that versus Tempt. And Tempt is the best defensive laner in our league. When you try and exploit him, typically he's going to outplay you and he's going to get out of those situations alive. So this is a really interesting matchup on that front. Of course, this is also a matchup, a battle, you could say, of the big boys. Last two teams fighting for that real second place. They are behind, of course, Riddle and Dusty, but they're within reach. They're trying to put their names in the hat. So an important question for me to you, Sam. Which one's Ramsay Bolton and which one's Jon Snow?
Oh, this is a battle of the illegitimate children, is it, to keep that broadcast friendly? I'm going to wait on that because...
Jon, no!
To get in so much danger. Does have the E, but it's not going to be enough as a fabulous Q over the wall secures first blood for Taxa.
And now his watch is ended.
I was about to say X7 are clearly Jon Snow because they were the prince that were promised from Spring, and he's already dead, and he's going to need the red priestess to come and bring him back to life.
I really don't expect those references to work out so much. Can we get a really dramatic shot of this? I really want to see this, because this is really sad. This is some good prep from Astralis. They've probably tracked out what's happened with X7 at their level ones, and oh, it feels so bad here. Chasey is picked up into a volatile snowball matchup. Now, not ever since the durability changes, the losing matchups he did have, he can survive now. And with no flash and having to start E on the Aurelia, I mean, you can start E into the Gnar anyway, it's whatever, it's not really the biggest thing. But being forced to not having flash, it just gives Carlsen a massive degree of safety to play with now.
And Taxa gets the path towards the top side where he can look to impact this in a couple of minutes' time. And with Chasey with no flash, if Carlsen can manage this wave well, there is definitely a world where Chasey is left in a very large hole with not a huge amount of room to get out of it. However tricky this matchup is supposed to be on paper anyway.
I mean, you should still be able to farm okay on the Aurelia versus Gnar. I mean, you get to clear through that wave, and whenever the wave is pushed into you as the Aurelia, you're happy, because you get to dive beyond the back minions and then take some hard trades, particularly if you can't land a stun, use a first Q onto them, and then hop back to the wave. I mean, we saw Backlund doing similar fancy moves on the Yasuo, using those minions as mobility. It's not to ruin all of the great Aurelia clips out there, but when Aurelia makes outplays, it's typically when there are a load of minions for you to just kind of do the fun mobility thing and stack up your passive, right? And if you have space to do that and the wave's in the right place, it makes things fairly easy to do so. But again, being set behind in this matchup just means that the kill threat isn't really there to have the real explosive plays.
Not yet. Anyway, of course, Kiba as well was one of the big proponents and reasons that first blood came off. A very well played double bandage toss, once to get the initial stun and one to follow up over the wall. Of course, this is the guy that came in to replace Wamoda, and he might be in trouble here as they're thinking about potential dive.
Well, but this is, so we don't have a Kalista in the game, but this is what you should do if you did have a Kalista, which is you just fight bot lane around your wave push. Of course, Kiba spots this out. Really intelligent play from Kiba, knows the timing, says, okay, there's a chance that there's like a clear from top to bot coming down towards us. Tempt had prio in mid lane as well, and they know that Viking is on bot side. Kiba's spotting this out, but Chrisberg is still under turret. They should know this is happening.
Right, time to make like Season 8 Worlds and prove yourself and Rise play. They're gonna get the stun under tower. Kiba rooted up and taken down, he says, but he's down, and now with the tower shot, Viking falls a 1-for-1.
Oh, the double bandage shots coming in so important, but the cross side here on top side.
Casey's trying to outplay this one, but it is a 1v2, and he might have a Defiant Dance, but I don't think he's quite got the damage. Got the fully stacked passive as I finally get the phrase. Now trying to dash away. Taxa, though, should surely be able to follow up, waiting for that passive to fall down. Dives back through the minions, but he's just not got enough. Double stun, though. Continuing to trade out, but just does not have the damage. And it's a 2-for-1 across the map.
Look, it's the Aurelia play with all the minions. He tries it. It really does. And you can see how slippery this champion is and why this champion is so infuriating to play against in so many different circumstances, but doesn't quite work out for him. And actually, in the cross-map scenario, Astralis come out so far ahead. They get to win on that top side at level 1, and again, just now in bot side, they make it even. They haven't, oh my gosh, that's a good catch.
Singh takes so much damage, and he's not got a W available. He's about to fall. Chrisberg gets that one. It's now a 2v1. Kiba on this Amumu is making everyone else a sanity is.
Oh, and one of the few changes Astralis made from spring into summer was bringing in not just coaching staff changes, but Kiba as well. And look at that level of play. It's intelligent, it's scouting out the enemy, it's outplaying them under tower and in the lane. Kiba on the Amumu making things work early, but he's not on the top side of the map. Viking is, and Tax is going to have to cover for Carlsen.
Taxa is there, and this early game has been all about the jungle and support. Teleport in.
Room prison.
Right, they will get countered by the room prison. Now a 2v1. Tax has gone in, but the passive is stacked again from Aurelia. Looking for another Q. Gets onto the minions to get the shutdown. Now needs to work out whether they're going to have a flawless duet. Flash from Carlsen makes that a 1-for-1, and Viking now in this extended trade is going to have to back away, surely. Throws down the Thundering Smash. He's got nowhere to go. He's so slow.
He has Mega. Can he get there with the slow?
The Hyperproc comes through one more time. Now the Mega's in for the wallop, but just shy.
Oh, he uses the W to trigger the transformation, but both top laners really feeling it. Sada 0 and 2, he gives a damn chase. He traces back in for that 1 kill on the top side. I'm loving how active these teams have been on cross maps, on calling out each other on the various areas of the map. The way these junglers have moved between various sides, top to bot, bot to top, has been so creative. Sadly for both teams, their supports haven't really been able to join the fray either side. If an Amumu had managed to get a reset on at some point, it would have been crazy. Instead, he's doing it in mid.
Done. Bandage toss comes through, and actually we are more done. I set that one up for some more action that didn't really occur. Nice angle from Astralis, but they can't quite make it work. They are, however, up about 1,500 gold off a lot of those early plays. We have said before in the past that Astralis, if they don't get things rolling early, can fall apart a little bit. Thus far, those early plays from the level 1 in both side lanes have been pretty impressive from them. They are up a number of kills.
Keeps at it again.
They might be at it again.
Oh, it's
land the bandage toss, but there is the cleanse over the wall, and there won't be a second one to follow up quite yet.
They actually popped the spray and pray. Chrisberg, no ultimate on the Twitch. That's down. Hit the level 6 at that point. It was a great timing, but is it good enough to stop them from this? Where's the bandage toss?
Axa is around, and he will have some options. The bandage toss is in, but Chrisberg's got nowhere to go. Quick kill, and out they go.
Well, that's another tower shot. Can they actually...
Well, flash out from Tempt. It means that the Q will not land from Taxa. No one else really available, and Astralis will have to back away down their AD carry.
Real rocket fuel for an early game. We've seen so many teams kind of hesitant to start up the big fights, but none of that today. At least in this game, Astralis playing around their jungle support. Taxa, Kiba doing so well at finding the right skill shots, finding the right places to be on the map. But the thing for Astralis to kind of focus in on their side of it is typically when they have made plays early, it has benefited Senkux. He's actually not had any part in this so far. This hasn't really been where they've typically been succeeding. There's been anywhere but mid lane. Does mean that both these mid laners have been spared the woes and wheels of the side lanes, but they are on roaming champions. Maybe the next time they go for the big plays, they can turn up to the party.
Still got a 2-0 Zeri. You've still got an Aurelia that got a shutdown and a fairly significant CS lead. And of course, Carlsen without the flash. Now the level 6s have come through. Needs to be a little wary, and that means this Aurelia, while down, is certainly not out and has to be considered something of a threat. Herald has spawned, and Carlsen, nowhere near Mega, might have to be a little wary if this Herald gets started up.
It is getting started up as, well, no, rather, Vikings just taking the Scuttle Crab, but you don't have the X7 bot lane roaming up to this. I think that's a fair shout. I think that when you're playing against a Gnar, who's just about to get their ultimate back, and you have, of course, enemy bot lane kind of having the extra timing on you as their reset. I don't think it's worth doing that. Play towards your lanes, get that guaranteed income from those turret plays. That's more than fine. X7 happy to not take the fight this time.
And of course, we've kind of set this matchup as that kind of the additional big matchup. There's kind of these outside chances of hitting that top two. X7 just a little ways behind that. Astralis a little bit before that, as well as Taxa on vision, means he's unlikely to make the play up here work right now. But Astralis have been much improved from spring, but have struggled to get wins against those truly top elite top 3 teams or so. This would be a big win to put themselves still in contention, just one game behind the likes of Dusty and Riddle.
It's great that you bring up that point, because actually there was a huge moment for Dusty, who currently are sat at 11 wins, who are tied up with Riddle on that second place, the place where both these teams would love to see themselves at. And Dusty beat Astralis for their first top team victory. That was really what started them off on their rise to the top. We'll see how far they can go. Of course, calling them dark horses, but Astralis have been on the worst end of the losing end of that kind of loss to top teams. If they could beat X7, beat them down, that would be such an important moment for them and potentially kick X7 into being picked as a 5th or 6th place team. They would have to be sat there in the bottom bracket. Of course, so many people are talking up this team, saying, oh my gosh, this team is so strong. They are looking like an incredibly strong team from the interviews that we've had, but they do need to really keep it together. They are still coming in after a very big change in the jungle. Viking has changed the way that this team wants to play. They're playing with more patience than potentially they did with MC. But is that patience going to be enough this game? It really hasn't been about that. It has been about throwing the punches out across the map on the other side of the play, trying to even things up in a wider sense.
Indeed, and the gold is pretty close, about 500 of that apart between them. The difference really right now is, of course, the Herald in inventory for Astralis. But of course, as this game goes on, Ryze Aurelia are very dangerous in those side lanes, very capable of controlling the split push pressure. And of course, you've got a Zeri at 2 kills already with a Yuumi that's been able to free scale largely, and that means that X7 relatively happy with how this is going, but Astralis also, you know, not unhappy with the fact they've got some gold in some good places as well.
Absolutely not. And I think when you have, you've managed to at least nullify a little bit of what the Volibear wanted to do, kind of make it even in place. Temp's actually caught out here.
Flash, bandage toss, follows up with a Sonic Wave, resonating strike, and Taxa will help secure a kill onto the mid lane. Their first roam mid, and they make it work. Second.
It takes a while, but Astralis find their way back to that mid lane, place where they found so many victories in the last couple of weeks. It's been the lane which they've been so good at really punishing, even though Tempt has been such a good mid laner playing defensively. Been seeing it right away from the start of this split, playing stuff like the Azir and just shuffling away from whatever he can. Can't do it in this one. That's going to be the Herald putting money into that mid jungle 2v2 again. Such a place of success for Astralis.
Not quite a third plate, but I think with this wave coming in, it will be secured shortly enough, and that's nice for Astralis to get those plates and that kill and extend the gold lead, which had been dwindling for them, and that's Senkuk's first kill involvement, which is great news for him, and surely this plate falls. Surely it does. No, the EQ combos from Ryze a little too strong thus far, and finally falls. I believe Senkuk's was in range for that.
I actually wasn't watching that. I was watching what build Tempt had. I was like,
oh, fair.
What's happening with that damage right now?
Chapter, what he's got.
Yes, and you know, you expect that whether it is going to be something like the Everfrost still, of course, that's been an item which has been hit so many times because it was so pro-back relevant. Well, they're back again. They got a volley barrel. He's got a flash. Maybe you can use that this time.
May need to use it. Not quite burned yet. And does get to walk away from that one. The stolen volley barrel doesn't get as much done as they might like, as Attila and Kasing look to try and shove in onto this bot side and secure a plate for themselves. Can't quite make it work as Kasing takes a tower shot. Of course, it's Yuumi, and so can make himself somewhat invulnerable by using somebody else's health bars. Top side, Chasey lands the flawless duet, but Carlsen goes towards the Mega, and thus will be able to mitigate some of the potential damage coming through. Viking onto Taxa, though, and there's a lot of trading going across the map in general right now.
And again, both these teams, I love to see this fast-paced gameplay. What can they do?
Fast-paced indeed. Taxa goes in, but can't get the kick because of a fantastic stoppage, but what can Tempt do? Flashing to the other side. Viking does go down as Tempt will not take the Realm Warp, and Attila trying to trade out best he can with the Lightning Crash running. Taxa finds Temp.
They're looking to continue. They're trying to bail them out.
They are indeed, but now Taxa, Kiba, Chrisberg in the 3v2. As Senko comes back to make that a 4v4 as Chasey's teleported in. Flash Vanguard, there's one quite well, but Kiba left in no man's land, rooted in place and taken down.
Oh, that was really nicely coordinated by X7. As soon as Tempt goes into that realm warp, Astralis say, okay, we're going to call your bluff. Let's go towards the exit location. Chooses not to take it. But this is such a night and day difference for X7. Remember, last couple of games with before the change when they were teleporting into the middle of teams and dying for it. It was so disjointed, but looking much more coordinated in this instance, more on the same page. This is what we want to see from our reigning champions, X7. Definitely not at the top of the tree, but trying to make their way back there. That's the kind of play which gives you hope for them.
Does indeed. Of course, Taxa's here to make sure there's no real way to get any more plates. And of course, because Chasey teleported in, it did mean that Carlsen, left alone on that top side, got to claim 2 plates for himself. Now traded back for 1 the other way. And X7 will take that as a relatively okay trade, all things said and done, with plates now falling.
So gold stayed very even. Still slightly to the favor of Astralis. You do get the feeling, at least I do, that it is going to be a little hard for X7 to play out teamfights the way that they want to. One of the reasons I was looking at that Rise build a little earlier is I was wondering how much burst he was going to go towards. Of course, he is still going for that Everfrost. Question yet to be answered whether that is going to be towards the Everfrost or the Fimbulwinter. We've seen more Seraphs.
There is the Everfrost.
Everfrost, yes, but Seraphs.
Oh, sorry, yes, I heard that was like Everfrost or Fimbulwinter. I was like, what?
Yeah, Seraphs.
I was busy checking with the gold topside where Chasey's got himself a decent lead and
Well, he's
Tax
also
on the other
not
side
here to
is
help
most
us
of
play,
them.
and he doesn't have Realm Warp. Kiba's looking for entry into this play, and Attila
Ah, Kiba, that is so smooth. Flash out of Attila, but now the turnaround is pretty strong. Senkux with the stolen Realm Warp means some danger, and Kiba has to flash back out in Tempered Viking. Now stepping forward, looking for a Stormbringer himself as an Ultra Shock laser turns himself into Master Chief with that Spartan laser over the wall, brought down from the heavens.
Charging up, let it rip. Astralis lose their support, and Keeper has been... well, I mean, this is the problem with the Amumu, right? Keeper's been looking for the aggressive plays. Amumu has ways in, not really ways out, especially when you're dealing with the cleanse, the Yuumi ult, just the raw mobility of the Zeri. If the play doesn't go well, you're probably getting run down. That's what happens there. I mean, credit to Astralis for bringing the Realm Warp to play. They stole that away to try and get Senkux to the play a little earlier, but it hasn't really worked out for them. And now with X7 taking that kill, they are actually even in gold. It's another kill onto that Zeri, and let's take a moment to talk about Attila.
Oh, yes.
Because last couple of weeks, besides, you know, oh, jungle change, actually, Attila has been the person who has been benefiting the most, I would say, on this new kind of style of play from X7, where it is a little bit more patient. Of course, in this game, you could really tell that, but
3-0-1 on the Zeri, nice.
It has been more measured, more considered. And even though this is fast play, you can see the reasoning behind the plays rather than just, yep, we're going for a fight. And Attila has been a big part of that. He has been getting resources. He's been doing a lot of scaling on Tristanas, on Ezreals. And with this Zeri, 3 kills, he is set once again to be a huge carry for X7.
Astralis, though, looking to secure the first turret for themselves and do so in mid lane with the second Herald coming in. So that's great news. More gold into Senkux's pockets, who has, as we said, been a bit of a monster on that Silas when available, as Chasey buffers out that Mega. Now, Mao might be looking for his own engage here, but won't have it happen as Carlsen backs away with the Mini Gnar coming through.
For a champion that went 0-2, died at level 1, and then died shortly after, this doesn't look like someone who's been shut down in laning phase. The Korean Challengers top laner Chasey bringing out the typical Challenger top lane pick in that Aurelia and seriously putting some moves on Carlsen, who's had to sit there even at 1-0 and 2 and just eat bad trade after bad trade, loses minions under turret. Chasey is actually getting control of that side lane. That's important for X7. It allows them to have a prio lane to push off and get themselves some footing on the map.
I mean, you and I were tuning into some LCK challenges earlier today with the dulcet tones of Chronicler and Jamada over that one, and they were kind of speaking about the madness of challenges, where these guys have got incredible hands, and you can never rule them out because they've got hands, but at the same time, some of the decision-making takes a little bit of work. They've got a bit of growing to do on that front, and Chasey has kind of shown a little bit of that here as he maybe about to find himself the recipient of 4 members coming in to punish his top lane.
Well, he's got a CS lead, but he's still 1-3. Doesn't have a flash for a couple of seconds. They're looking for the timing, but Viking is here.
4v2, make that a 5v2 as a teleport start to come through. Chasey avoids the Mega Gnar into the wall though. Has got a Vanguard's edge, lands it, but will still surely fall. And that'll be the tower afterwards as well.
Hey, so that is really tricky from Astralis. They just bring so many resources to the table. X7, they come in with Viking there in the right time. You think, heck, yeah, I mean, you've got early game Volibear, lots of power, Aurelia, similar thing. When you bring every member to the table effectively from Astralis, you're still not outplaying that. They overload one side of the map and they take the tower. On the other side, though, X7 find the easy cross map of a tower to themselves. Even-ish trade, but getting another kill onto that Aurelia is quite important. We're talking about how they were still kind of off the ground, and it's still going to be difficult for them to shut down that champion later on. They're already kind of reaching their points of power, but Astralis not content to let that happen completely unanswered.
A lot of members committed, a lot of ultimates committed, but the tower falls, Chasey falls, and X7, though they read the play, couldn't quite defend it, as you said. And they're doing their very best to make sure Chasey doesn't become any more of a problem. And they've done an okay job of that, even if Chasey, as we said, has still managed to keep his CS numbers relevant and will still be a little dangerous, even if not as snowballed as he might have been in other circumstances.
So, of course, Baron spawning in a minute. See how that ends up affecting the map. No one's close to a Dragon Soul Point. It has really been about side lanes and cross maps, and neither team has really managed to land a knockout blow just yet. Both teams really, really happy to pull that trigger.
So much of it as well has been where have Viking and Taxa managed to make things happen. Tempt's been the addition for Viking, whereas it's been Kiba really who's been following around his jungler. And both have found decent success, even if I feel Astralis is probably the ones who've largely come out just slightly ahead in this early game. You can see it in the gold, but it's still a very even game, all things said and done. And I feel probably this third dragon might be the moment where it all blows up.
Do you know what? It is great to see this level of contest. Yeah, we do have a minute until our dragon, see how both these teams kind of put up or shut up around that. You can see that Tempt is recalling, has a realm up to enter the fray a little quicker too. And it is going to be the Seraph. So it's more damage from the Rise. If you get locked up in front of him, as even a Mega Gnar, as a Silas, whatever, a lot of these low-range champions, you are going to melt. See if that affects this dragon.
Looking like a Sunfire second for this Aurelia as well, following somewhat in Linkas's Diana footsteps.
Well, could also be that Frostfire. See what
of course, you know, you're not wrong there. I saw the Barmies and made an assumption.
Yeah, well, it's a Song of Ice and Fire, I suppose, between those two items. We are back to the battle of the big boys. We'll call it that. I'm not using the other B word for that one, but this is
There's
going
so many B words. Perhaps we'll just go with battle right now as the dragons spawned and X7 are willing and ready to contest. Senko's kept up a little bit out of here by Chasey's positioning in the bush, and maybe they'll try and turn onto this with one half of the floor that's put down.
Marking Senko.
They're going to find him. Straight in on it, he goes golden though, but all the while, Dragon started on the other side. Look who gets rooted though, kill onto Kiba. Dragon still started. Massive Vanguard edge onto Chrisberg. He dies. Now Chasey needs to try and survive, will finally fall, but Carlsen has to back himself out of danger. The kick isn't enough. Chasey is dead, but two members have already fallen with Astralis, and what can they do to get on out? The Ultra Shock Laser Attila running wide with the burst, fires over the wall. Tempt on a killing spree, and they'll move back to the dragon, their prize.
You can shut down one side of the map from X7, but you haven't cut down Attila as well. It's a bloody mess in the river. Kills on both sides and plenty of disengage action, but it's X7 that win the fight, and a lot of it is through this area. They get onto Senkux to Chasey and Tempt at the top of the fight, and that really stumps what Astralis are looking for. They're looking to group up for Chrisberg to do so much work, but then Chrisberg takes a step too forward. Not Aurelia, that one champion they've tried so hard to keep out of this game, lands the ult onto them, lands the burst, and though the Aurelia goes down, that is the Twitch down with them. Astralis can't stand and fight after that.
No, they can't, and it's haunted them all season long. Mid-game dragon setups for Astralis have always had their moments, and credit, of course, to Chasey for finding that incredible Vanguard's edge into the backline and getting rid of Chrisberg and all the rest of it. He didn't get to spray and pray as much as he may have wanted. Rosary beads were wanting in that one. But all the same, Astralis still in this game, even if X7, definitely the victors in that fight.
And now what I'm really looking for Astralis is like, okay, that last fight was largely due to superior vision control and positioning from X7 in that Dragon setup. You already called out that Dragon setup, we won't harp on that too much, but the question is, what can they do with their pick champions after this point? You still have Lee Sin, great at finding people within the enemy jungle. The Mumu similar, she's gone forward with the Hex Flash. not going to be punished just yet, but actually I'm holding the
Gonna
tongue, maybe
try
he
and
is.
get onto him. He's going to try and turn around. Now the teleport back might be the angle. Attila taking to a local spark surge over the one Viking. Now looking to get back out. Senkux into the backside, but a flawless duet onto the backside. Chasey, that was gorgeous. Now can he finish it up though? The healing from the Kingslayer is not quite enough. Viking into the backside though, goes back in and dies. Root pressing onto Carlsen, goes Mega, will not survive. Finally goes down to 1-for-1 in that one as well. Mid laner and top laner for top laner and jungler. Into the backside goes Taxa, will die. Tempt is alive, and Attila is free, firing. X7 come out on top.
It's a red wedding in the top side, jungle into the river, and the real difference maker is finally this Yuumi. Yuumi's started to get those levels, started to get those heals, and the amount of effective HP which X7 run through is absurdly high. Astralis actually find a lot of targets. I thought this was going to be a clean wipe. Credit to them for fighting back, and it's just goes to show the level of power both these teams are bringing to it, both in the hands on the keyboards and, of course, the champions on the Rift. See, trades upon trades. Senkux gets another Kingslayer out, takes a lot of HP from Chasey. Look at Carlsen at the death of this fight. You think he's down, but that W buys a new lease on life. Maybe you think Chrisberg can turn around, but it's just, at this point, yeah, you've taken down the Aurelia, that's cool, but I mean, Attila talked about them being the big carry for X7 in the last few weeks. They're the ones who stay on top at the end of it, despite some late fight heroics from Astralis.
You should have paid attention across the seas in Essos. Attila, the Dothraki Hun, doing very well in this game indeed. Well, maybe we'll leave off the Game of Thrones.
Maybe you can just hold out the Yuumi in front of you and just go, Dracarys.
The cat that will mount the world.
That's what happens when you actually build a Sunfire cape on Yuumi. Support is
dear, oh dear.
Support is dark and full of terrifying items. So the legend goes.
Our brains are full of terrifying references that are a little bit much for mortal Ken. There's Astralis now in their red side jungle trying to ensure they have some coverage.
But they haven't spotted a ward. Look at that ward just behind red buff. Astralis think they have the vision control, but they're being collapsed on. They're ready for the fight.
Taxa will ward hop away. Chasey gets down the Vanguard's edge, but now the stolen ultimate from the volley bend, not enough. Chasey gets Kiba and Senkux go golden again, but now Taxa does get Chasey. Still though, it is X7 who are winning this one as Attila over the wall, but look at Chrisberg free firing with the spray, and the prey. Tempt doing what they can at 2-4-1 right now. As Carlsen to the back side of it goes golden. Carlsen trying to survive this one best he can. We'll get the Mega Nara to the wall. Does not survive with the zoomies, but Chrisberg goes invisible, but not for long. The burst fire secures him. An ace for X7 again.
There he is. That is the premier teamfight AD carry across the ERLs. Attila has done it for seasons, and he's back again. 10-0-7 on the Zeri. What can't this guy do in this game? Attila is here to play.
Absolute mess of a fight, but Astralis committed everything and cannot touch the Zeri. She still has flash.
Doesn't even need to use it. And again, it is some heroics from Astralis which are making these fights close, but you aren't getting the Zeri. Goes down to hundreds of HP. It's just not close enough. And what really swung that fight for me was X7's vision control again. We talked about it around the last Dragon. Of course, that's coming up again now. It allowed them to call Tempt to the fight early, teleport in, and he came in with guns blazing. Has 3.5 items now. Next time he comes into the fight, he's going to be firing at a cannon out of AP damage too. Speaking of cannons, that Zap cannon from Attila doing so much work. Looking to start up this Dragon.
Background spinning up. Absolute huge railgun damage. Viking to the backside though. Taxa tries to get in. He gets onto Attila, but he still has that flash. Finally falls. So does the Yuumi. But what about the rest of X7? Chasing the backside with that Vanguard's edge, doing what they can. But now, what can Senkux and Carlsen do? Kingslayer doing what it can to keep Senkux topped off. The boulder thrown in, but Carlsen into Mini. Will still be just the two top laners remaining. A 4-for-4 and a bloody fight it was again.
And I am so sorry if anyone has any attachment to any main characters in this story, but you should have read the title on the book. Everyone is mortal in this game. These teams trying to find a step beyond it towards that top end of the table, but everyone here is susceptible to their own dooms. Bloody hell, what a fight again. X7 Astralis butting heads, mashing their keyboards. Serious work by Taxa on that Lee Sin. We saw it a little bit in spring, how he could find those miracle kicks. And it's once again, heartbreakingly for Astralis, not enough. X7 have so many carries on this team. This time it's Chasey on the Aurelio. He's been biting the bullet in so many of these trades. Astralis so content to put them down. It is actually going to be that Sunfire, not the Frostfire Gauntlet. It seems like Fire won out over Ice in the decision-making tree. But at the end of that fight, I would love to see the damage that Sunfire has done. That's got to be hilarious. Actually, you know, observers, is there any way we can hover over these Sunfire capes from Aurelia? I'd love to see how much damage came out from that, because the amount of time they were stuck in melee range was absurd. Maybe you have to see how much that can do around a potential Baron fight. Of course, Soul Point achieved by X7. Now they have control over the map, and they are looking to see what they can do to Astralis with it.
Absolutely. And of course, not quite at level 16 yet for that Aurelia, when that rank 3 of the ultimate available was still hopping forwards. Lands a flawless duet, gets on attacks, of course, burned absolutely everything in the kitchen sink to get onto Attila last time, and did finally manage to secure the kick, even if it was very, very close indeed. But now down those playmaking tools to do even more work next time around.
Attila, again, just becoming a moving artillery platform as well as a gunnery platform. He's now has to deal with a Chempunk Chainsword. Taxa really wanted to be a Space Marine today. He's picked up the Chainsword, of course, famous in that franchise.
Suffer not the AD carry to live.
It is better to die for the enemy AD carry than to live for yourself, says Taxa. As, he's really trying to do that, did that in the last fight. And the extra healing reduction could be the difference maker if you can make it onto the right person. Attila's going in, though.
In the grim darkness of the mid lane, there is only war.
Going again.
Get onto Carlsen. Do what they can. Viking has to ultimate out, but the Vanguard's edge will force Carlsen into a precarious position. The Rune Warp secures the Twitch. The Rat is splatted. And in they come with the Realm War to try and chase for more attacks against the kick, but it's not going to be enough. He gets a Gore Drinker heal, but it's still a double to Attila. And X7 managed to secure 3 and could look to secure the game.
It's finally a clean fight, and who does it come off of? Attila finding the angle. He opens up on Astralis. They have to retreat, and they can't quite manage it. X7, they were looking all but down and out halfway through the split. But this time, chasing in for those final kills, chasing into that second place and catching up to Astralis at 9-5.
The undefeated run with Viking continues, and they claw their way up the table. Do you believe in the late split redemption? It's not quite over yet. They run out of minions, and there's still half a turret HP to go. So X7, hold off on that death knell for now.
It's been renewed for another season. Hold on to your seats. Wait till the next episode 8. That's when all the kills come in, apparently, in this big old timeline. Of course, there is 2 minutes until the next dragon spawns. Baron already up. They could very well be our battlegrounds, but it feels like actually it's been X7 punishing Astralis when they've been looking to position. Oh my god. Okay, finally get that. It's actually not as much as I thought, but I'm going to imagine most of that damage. So. I would have loved to see it after that dragon fight, see how much of it had come from specifically that fight. Attila. Oh no, Mr. President, the hero carry, he's caught.
They're going to be able to try and do what they can. Attila throws down that ultimate, doing what he can. Does a lot of damage, it's still not enough. A shutdown going the way of Kiba. He starts off the kills, he'll finish them off here. Baron's alive, and the AD carry is dead for 43 seconds.
Oh gosh, what a death to give up as well. He has been really the main character, dancing around, spear dancing around Astralis, but a hand reaches up from the floor. The fight's not done yet. Astralis looking to make this interesting.
Senkux decides he wants the edge of the Vanguard's blade as this whole ultimate lost chapter comes in. It's 1-for-1 with that edge on Vanguard. 1-for-1 in the kills as well, but the damage afterwards, it's so extreme. Yuumi plus Zoomies equals Doomies for Astralis. Absolutely everyone is murdered by Chasey. You can put him down in the laning phase. You can't put him down in the Baron pit as Temp finishes off the top laner and finishes off the game.
Lee Sin try to recall, try to do something, but you can't deal with a level 17 Rise. It takes an extra episode or 2, but X7 consigning Astralis to be level with X7 at 9-6.
Ambition proved it best in 2018. Prove yourself and rise straight away in that Nexus death. Great stuff from Tempt. Great stuff from Chasey and Kasing to finish up that game.
And it was a little bit of ambition temptation onto the Baron, trying to look for a bit of avarice, trying to find that way back into the game. What a great heavyweight slugfest between these teams, though. I mean, we came into this saying, look, these teams are realistically trying to go for that second place spot. We've heard X7 called out as maybe the second best team right now. We've heard the same of Dusty, but they are putting their name into that conversation, and they're putting it in even louder than ever now.
At the very least, I'm sure you need to go refill your popcorn after that one. X7 and Astralis tie themselves up in terms of the standing. But I do believe that's enough from myself and Nymera for now, so we'll throw to the desk while we catch our breaths.
Valamagulis.
I don't care what anyone says, this champion is not legal. They shut him down. They brought him to the ground. I built the Blade of the Ruin King. I'm immortal now.
Man, it's that no, it's giving it's giving it back like
different.
all season Akali, all season Katarina, where they would literally go 0-10, build Gunblade, and suddenly everyone dies. And this is like Aurelia. Are the Yumi on top? Nah, that's pure filth. That's pure
So let's
filth.
bring it back down to the first play of the game. Wait, that was pointed at me? I play Penton? No. So let's bring it back to the beginning of the game where they just go in and they take Chasey out for at least 3 minutes, I would say.
So what happened level 1 was completely illegal, right? You have your entire draft based around helping Chasey get through lane and scale up and put him ahead. You have your Rise, which is his entire function is to push and move topside. And I think this speaks to X7's ability to adapt. They essentially had no win condition because Chasey was out. He didn't have a potion. He had no flash. He couldn't lane. And they were still able to win the game. Attila stepped up. I just think they're an incredible adaptive team now.
We need to look into team fights. Don't you sneeze on me. We need to look into team fights and the way they were so close. Regardless of we bring into this one, I don't think the Twitch worked as it was supposed to. Kiba was a monster though.
Kiba has been incredible finding bandit stores after bandit stores into big ultimates, but ultimately in these fights, the team that scales better into the late game wins. In Aurelia Yumi, Zeri Yumi, Rise in the mix as well. There is just so much damage, utility, healing and shielding going around that unfortunately Astralis were not able to deal with this. And that was just one example of a team fight where it went the way of X7, triple kill for Attila. And Kasing obviously and Attila being the ones that survive right there. But I just want you to focus on Taxa right here because he gets a fantastic kick on Attila, throwing him into his team with literally his dying breath. And even though this should technically be an Astralis winning team fight, that champion called Aurelia just completely 1v3s them. And I said, had that chain hit maybe from Senkax, maybe there'd be a way that you put so much damage down on Aurelia that you won't be able to heal it that much back up. But honestly, I feel like X7 played these teamfights to perfection. I think Attila's positioning was stellar through the teamfights as well. And every time we say it, if you put resources onto someone, that someone needs to give you something back. I think Attila and Kassim today gave them back the W.
I need to make you the question of how good is Chasey? Even though a lot is to the champion, yes, it's true. You kept saying, if it was me, I would be dead 3 minutes ago.
Yeah. So I do think that today wasn't the best test of how good the top laners were. There were a lot of stuff that were out of their control. I mean, it was his fault he checked a bush, but that's not really a test of skill. That's more just unfortunate. I do think
Unlucky.
I do think he was allowed to scale because his team was so far ahead and bought him time to get back into the game. I think if that wasn't the case, he loses the game on his own.
So this is a good showcase of how X7 are working right now with Viking in the jungle, but also with Attila smurfing on the Zeri. Welcome back to the interview. It seems like the team is in a really good shape right now. It seems like you really enjoy playing with the Zeri and the Yumi. How despicable do you feel after playing with that champion?
I mean, I really like Yumi, right? You never really complain when someone hops on you, no? Like never. So, like these drafts, I think like we really actually outdrafted from my point of view. Like praise to my coach. I also criticize him a lot, like daily, because he actually is like special sometimes, like for example when he does interviews. But yeah, like today he did a good job. So praise to Nias.
I love you, by the way. I love you. I love you, by the way.
You know what? Props to the call out for you, Attila.
And it seems like Viking is just fitting in? It seems like the team is with a new mindset. People may say like this is the honeymoon effect for you guys regarding this team. But is it the honeymoon, or is this X7 going to playoffs and maybe top 3, top 2?
What do you mean, maybe top 3, top 2, by the way?
I'm just baiting you in, man. I just want to
Calling
hear
you out as well, by the way.
I'm hearing you. I just want to listen to that
Okay,
voice say what I know
I'm
you're
just
going to
gonna
say.
tell you this, okay? I'm gonna
Yeah.
tell you this right now.
Okay.
We're only defeatable by M&M, and hopefully they are not making playoffs. So I think we're actually good to go. We beat Banir, we beat Excel, we beat almost pretty every top team, right? So like right now we're looking way more consistent. Today was like a weird scrim game. Honestly, it was like really chaotic, but it was a nice game as well. So I think right now we're actually on a good way to actually just go and win, because I think on best of 5 this team stands no chance at all. Like they, right now it looks like 2019 LEC, like when everyone was banning Draven. Cool, like keep banning Draven, like leave my teammates like these OP champions.
I miss
You
him
know
so
what he
much.
said, right? He said, "Thank God M&M are out of playoffs." Because this
guys are
team
smart
too
for
old,
that.
they're scary, Attila, I want to ask, of course, with your sides in playoffs, what is the one team that you really fear that they could take away what you want to achieve, which obviously I assume is winning the NLC?
Besides M&M, of course.
Besides M&M, of course. They're not going to be there, unfortunately. Or fortunately for you.
Yeah, I mean, I will say like I fear no man besides ourselves so far, because I actually truly believe in the capacities of our team. Obviously, the easy one to pick will be Excel, but as far as I'm concerned, as far as the meme goes, like they're really bad on playoffs. So I don't think I should be that worried about that team on best
Okay.
of 5.
I'm just going to reiterate that they're really bad in playoffs when you're called Riddle. Right now, you're playing on X7. I'm just saying. But thank you so much for the reply. I appreciate that.
Now, thank you so much for this interview. My question to you to wrap it up is, should I start having the NL copium that we are going to EU Masters and maybe LFL will finally fall?
I mean, yeah, that's the goal, right? That's the goal. Like,
Okay, that's goal, but is it true?
No, yes, of course it is true. Like, at least to Spain, I'm not losing. That one I can guarantee you. Like,
I'm back on track, baby. Let's go, NL Copium. Thank you so much for the interview, Attila. It's good to see you back on that track. And good luck on the rest of the games. I'll see you in playoffs.
thank you very much, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
They just rebuilt.
You made the guy pull his headset off with your screen.
But he knows. I've interviewed this guy for years and years. He knows how loud I am. It's on him.
Oh, we know how loud you are.
Oh, you still have no idea. If we win EU Masters, I'll...
If.
If?
What is this pessimism, if?
Do you believe in us?
I do. I think
You're going to win
you
EU
have
Masters.
really good teams, yeah.
That's not what I asked.
Our teams are great.
Look, I'll be honest, it's hard for me to say that because I realized as I was saying that LFL exists, and I know
It does, unfortunately, for us.
it's really hard to say, isn't it? But I believe, 100% belief.
A little bit, okay. Looking into Astralis, we can't count them out. That was an amazing team that brought in. And now, let's talk with them. We need to talk with Carl. I believe it's Carlsen. There we go, Carlsen. I was given the name Carlsen? Okay, welcome back into the interview. This is really important. You brought in the Gnar. You knew you had to face off versus Chasey. You saw the Irelia. How did you feel when you saw that?
I mean, it was definitely scary, or not scary to play against, but Chasey, he's a very strong laner, so him picking Irelia is a bit more scary than the other Irelias I would usually see in this league and in general in EU.
But you still got the lead at the beginning of the game. Kiba gave you that lead. What was the communication moving on into those team fights? Because let's be honest, every single team fight could go both ways, but Attila was never focused. He was always out of range with that sneaky little champion. What was the communication like as we guys were doing team fights?
Yeah, we definitely approached them kind of wrong in a lot of the team fights, and in the end, where we kind of got it figured out, it was a bit late, and the other enemies were too strong. So yeah, game could have gone both ways, but we were just not strong enough at the points in team fights.
Today, Today. Not strong enough today.
So, Carlsen, the development that we've seen on Astralis from spring to summer has been absolutely impeccable. And one of the common denominators for that development has been your performance as well. It seems like even for us, when you're even put on weak side, no resources given at all, you manage to always do your job and perform. What has been the journey like from you and your development in the team?
A lot of props to Vendetta for that. We've been doing a lot of work together, studying and practicing different matchups with other people. So Vendetta has helped me a lot and also helped me along the way, motivating me to work hard and study more on how to play the weak side better, since that's something I've struggled with a lot previously.
Big question, because you brought up this topic. Last split, when we were talking with Astralis, it was always on scrims we did it. We couldn't bring it up onto the stage.
Yeah.
But today you told me, Carlsen, that we found the answer, but it was too late. So you're evolving during the game. If this was a best of 5, would this be different?
Yes, I would win the best of 5, for sure.
I've never seen this guy talk with so much confidence.
You know
and
what, the
this is
question would
bringing
be
light.
about the best of 5, right? Which team are you looking forward to be in a best of 5 then?
I mean, everybody, but JDXL, since we lost them twice.
Man, XL is the target for a lot of teams.
Everybody's
here.
looking at Excel like we're going to bring them down. Okay, they owe me a lot of videos of apologizing if you guys win all versus them. Into EU Masters. Looking into how stacked NLC is right now, do you think Astralis can go into EU Masters this split?
Yes, definitely. I think.
What is your objective on those EU Masters if you could get into that one? Because at early, you are a young player. You're still developing as well. What is your objective going into EU Masters?
I think mostly leave satisfied with my own performance. I don't want to make it into EU Masters and then choke. But the goal for how far isn't really in my mind right now. It's mostly performing in every game I play.
That was the wrong answer, Carlsen. The right answer when they ask you about EU Masters is smash Common Corp.
Yes.
That is the answer.
My bad.
It's on the script. It's on the script.
It's on the script.
Yeah, so Carlsen, I just want to ask one question. Last year when I was on M&M, I played against you actually, and you kept destroying me because you were just you were better mechanically. I don't know if you remember this, but I was just wondering, because I'm curious now, how do you think you stack up to the rest of the competition top lane? Like, would you say you're like second best, third best, first? Like, what do you think?
I feel like Kryze and Chasey are probably, I would say I'm top 3 of Kryze and Chasey. I want to show off more what I can do on some carry top lane. I think I could stop a lot of the players on it. But yeah.
So no Jax playing?
No.
Nah. No Jax Blanks, no Care Bursts, none of these guys that like to play through side lane.
You brought in the spice today. Thank you so much for this interview, Carlsen, or Carl, as they say here. Thank you so much for this one. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and good luck. I want to see that confidence, man. Style on those kids.
Thank you.
See ya. It's really good to see Astralis with this sort of confidence, even after the defeat.
They played so well.
Yes, and it's good to know that they found the answer as they were going through the game. This is not the same team. This is a team that everybody should be afraid in playoffs, in my opinion. Even though you think Dusty is going to win.
Yeah, so I do think it's really nice. It shows that they're adaptable, right? I definitely think it's a super good sign. They could think of things and adapt, and it bodes well for them in the future.
So this is going to be surprising. Show us the standings to understand where we are right now after this game from Astralis. Okay, they're tied up. They're actually tied up. I still need to see the tiebreaker between them, obviously.
Okay, so the rules are, if they're 1-1, what counts is the team that has the most wins on the second half of the split. And since the split is not done yet, we do not have a complete tiebreaker scenario for now.
So 4th place is being split by Astralis and X7. Obviously, the goal for these two teams is get me the 3rd one. The 3rd one, so we can decide who we want to play against and not get the remains of the decision from the other ones.
Absolutely. So I think this is talking miles when we ask them about EU Masters, because you can see how highly tied all these teams on the top part of the standings are. The fact that all of them could be going to EU Masters, the fact that we're going to lose some of them from going to EU Masters petition, 5 teams maybe from the NLC. Just saying.
That would be cool. I would like to see